Hello everyone and welcome back to your AP World History prerequisite DBQ essay work. This particular module and video lesson focuses on your thesis. Alright, your DBQ thesis is the answer to your prompt. It must be a historically defensible claim and respond to all parts of the question. It must be written in the introduction, and I require 3 answers. Now, when I say it's the answer to the prompt, think of it this way. As opposed to a prompt or a thesis, you have a question and an answer. An historically defensible claim means that it must be proven with historical evidence. And that's where your DBQ that's where your documents will come in. Responding to all parts of the question. That means that if you're asked for more than one thing, then that has to be presented in your thesis. So if you're for example, if it asks for a comparison, which is similarities and differences, then you would need at least a similarity, at least one difference, and then the third answer could be either one. But so if it asks for, similarities and differences, then you must provide, at least one of each. If it asks for causes or effects, then you would need either 3 causes or 3 effects, but not one of each. So that's what it means when it says responding to all parts of the question. And of course, it must be on topic. I require the introduction because I think that the best way and the most appropriate style of writing when you're proposed a question and a prompt is to provide the answer immediately after your context. All right, to earn the thesis point, you must do the following. You must write a thesis that responds to the entire prompt and outlines the specific arguments you will make based on correct utilization of your documents. So, the answers that you come up with, you must be able to support that with your documents. And you need to avoid generalizations that do not reflect reasonable interpretations of the documents. You never want to generalize. You never want to be vague. You always want to be bold, direct, and specific. Don't say the word religion when you could say Islam. Don't say trade items when you could say slaves, spices, and timber. Always be specific. Don't say Europeans if you really mean the French and the Spanish. Always be specific. And it's very important to keep this in mind. Common errors in thesis writing include just rewriting the prompt or presenting an answer to only some parts of the question. I suggest that you don't rewrite the prompt at all. I know that in English you're taught to do so, but in historical essay writing, there's no need. If you correctly write your context in a way that it links the time and the location and the situation to the prompt, which is the question, then there's no need to rewrite the question. Immediately then go into your thesis. And of course, if you only address some parts of the prompt, not all parts, then you won't earn that point either. Using words from the prompt can be useful, like I said, when developing your context because you must make a connection to the prompt. And presenting your answers, but should not be the focus of your thesis or the introduction. So using those words from your prompt can be useful, but they should not be the focus when you're writing your introduction and your thesis in particular. So remember our prompt. Using the following documents and your knowledge of world history, analyze attitudes by groups and individuals toward those they consider to be outsiders or others from the 9th century BCE to the 13th century CE. Keep in mind it asks for you to analyze attitudes by groups and individuals. Okay, so let's talk about some possible thesis for our prompt. Oh, I probably should have moved that up. Okay, you need to keep in mind that the attitudes by groups and individuals are what you're being asked to do, and you have to do that in order to address all parts of the prompt. If you only write about attitudes and how they were positive and negative, then you will not earn the point because it doesn't tell me specifically what those attitudes are. All you've said is that they were positive or negative. If you only write that there were many attitudes and where the views came from, then you will not earn the point because, yet again, that does not explain what the attitudes are. And that is what it is asking for. It's not asking if there were many or few. It's not asking if they were positive or negative. It's not asking where these views came from or what the influence was on these groups and individuals and how they felt about outsiders. It's asking what those exact views are. So keep in mind, if you do not write an acceptable thesis, it can be very difficult to earn the points for the other parts of the essay. Your task is to analyze. Right? That is your task. That's what you're doing. You're analyzing. And remember, analyzing means to break down or to further examine something. Examine something critically by breaking it down into parts. And that's why we have 3 separate answers. Remember, what are you analyzing? Attitudes towards outsiders or foreigners. Where? Well, the empires that are found within the documents that you'll see. When? The 9th century BCE to the 13th century CE. So when you're writing your thesis, any answers that are outside of that time period, you will not receive credit for. You must stay within the time period for the entire essay. Now, except maybe the possibility of using a different time in the analysis when you explain the effect or the impact that your thesis might have, but I'll go into more detail on that in the analysis video lesson. So for example, I've got a couple of student samples here of a thesis. All right, for example, example 1. Rulers had positive and negative views of outsiders or others in the regions surrounding their territories. Attitudes about others can have many sources. That's unacceptable. The thesis does little other than state the obvious given in the prompt. In fact, rewriting the question is often a waste of time. I've already told you that. Something of which you have a limited amount of. You're short on time. It's a timed essay. So there's no need to write anything that will not earn you a point. So don't worry about the information that's already been provided. AP readers want you to write answers in the thesis. They want to know that you understand what the question is asking, therefore by providing an answer to that question. Example 2. There were many attitudes by groups and individuals towards those they consider to be outsiders or others in the era from the 9th century BCE to the 13th century CE. These views stem from religious traditions to political disputes. Well, this thesis improves upon the first example by including some specific information on where the views came from, but it would not earn the thesis point because it does not answer the entire prompt. Nowhere in this example does it say what those attitudes were, and that's what the prompt is asking for. Remember, you need to develop your own thesis for your summer work DBQ essay, and as always, please email me or you can come by and see me in E19. I'm here to help. And this concludes your DBQ thesis video lesson. Again, if you need help, I'm here.